guys, it's X. Welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I wanted to talk to you about how I passed Japanese 1 and I got an A, of course, because I worked my little ass off. So I just kind of wanted to give you some tips, tricks if you want to learn a new language and how I was successful in it. First, I would like to start off by saying that I played Duolingo, I want to say about 6 months before I actually took the course. I was always so intimidated to take Japanese because when I was younger, I was told that it was so hard. It's one of the hardest languages to learn. There was 3 different alphabets, and I was just always so intimidated. And to be honest, when I was younger and in college, I could not afford to fail a 5-unit class, so I just never did it. And then this year, I was like, screw it. I've always wanted to go to Japan, and I've always liked the culture and different things about it. I freaking love and I'm obsessed with ramen. So I was like, my husband and I really want to go there hopefully at the end of this year. And he told me years ago when he went, almost like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, that it was really hard to navigate the train system and that it was really hard, like no one spoke English. So, I mean, obviously things have changed and there is like all these translators and different things that can help you now. But I was just like, people like to hear their native tone. So like, why not learn the language and it'll benefit me? I also had like a personal goal for myself to learn like 5 different languages in my lifetime. I am a nurse, so Tagalog made more sense to me, but I couldn't find a course. I think Babbel has it now that I know, but like I couldn't find a course. I was originally listening to this podcast and learning that, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go for the hard stuff. So I was like, let's learn Japanese. So prior to me actually taking this college course, I was playing Duolingo, like I said, for about 6 months. And I picked this book and another book up at Barnes & Noble, and I think it was like $20 or something. It basically just has like the different alphabets and teaches you about it. But to be honest, without that instructor, like I really did get a lot out of Duolingo. I did learn a lot of vocabulary words, and honestly I was thankful because my first 3 chapters or 3 lessons, so we learned a total of 5 lessons in my actual Japanese college course, and I knew a lot of the vocabulary words, thankfully. What Duolingo did not do for me though was teach me about grammar and like possessive words and particles. Obviously we did like learn that, like Duolingo did teach us what the word was, but didn't exactly explain things. So I was very confused playing the game, and like I'm very competitive. I want to win the game. So I was playing every day consistently for like 15 minutes for the 6 months. And when I finally sat in class, I was like, now this makes sense. Like now I get why in Duolingo I was messing this up. So without the teacher, like it wouldn't have been easy for me to learn. All right, so I'm gonna go over the basics of what I learned and my interpretation of it. Might not be the real interpretation of it, but if you wanna start learning on your own or have practice before you go to class, if you're gonna take class, like I said, pick this up at Barnes & Noble, and I'm sure you can find it on Amazon or anything like that. But okay, so there's 3 different alphabets basically, and to be honest, no offense to the Japanese, but I didn't understand the whole point of having all 3, and I'll get to that in a second. But anyway, there's katakana, hiragana, and kanji. So from what I understood, hiragana is the Japanese writing system in Japan. Katakana, this alphabet, which I'm not putting it close enough for you to see, is their alphabet for foreign words. And then there's kanji, which I don't really have a photo of. Actually, I can find it in the back, which is borrowed from China, and that is their like pictorial. I don't want to call it pictorial because like to me it's like pictures, but like the symbols, it's all drawings. So what I didn't understand between katakana and hiragana, and the reason why I was like a little, why do you have to have both alphabets, was because everything's enunciated the same. So like, let me show you real quick. This is K, so this is, and then they have 5 vowels, right? A, I, U, E, and O. So this is like ka, ki, ki, ku, ke, ko, if I could see it correctly. But it's the same exact thing for this alphabet. It's enunciated the exact same. So I'm like, why bother having a whole different system to write if it's pronounced the same and spelled the same? I don't know, but whatever, I have to learn it. And then some things as well with kanji, like let's say to eat, tabemas. They have a specific kanji on how you can write that, but it only substitutes the first combination of letters, which is TA, and I'm like, well, what's the point? Like, I didn't get it. My teacher explained, like, it's just easier to have kanji if you're like writing a sign or like making a sign, because she's like, it'll, instead of like being this long, it can be this small if you just know it. But I'm like, and I think she said there's over 2,000 kanji characters, and I was like, this is just way too much. It's a lot. I don't get it, but okay, I learned it. I'm really good at reading katakana. I only scratched the surface with kanji. I think we only learned like 90 characters. And then katakana, I know it, but like I don't use it as often. So we did learn how to read and write those, but I'm not as strong as I was in hiragana. Hiragana I can read fine. And then there's romanji. And I was a little peeved with romanji as well. So romanji is like the Roman alphabet, but like how you would spell things in Japanese. And one thing that I didn't understand, let me give you an example of what romanji is. One thing I didn't understand is there are grammar rules for how you would spell things, and I was like, well, why don't we just use it then? If there's grammar rules to it, like what? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so here that says hajimemashite. Oh, no, it doesn't. It says hajime. Oh, yeah, it does. So, see, it is like written, that's romanji, and then on top is the katakana. So I was like, I can read that great. I could read and understand that amazing. But yeah, anyway, what helped me is obviously studying, taking the time. So I took a hybrid class. We were in class for like an hour and 20 minutes. And then we had homework online. What helped me was making flashcards. The homework was so frustrating for me because we did online and the teacher would let us, it was like kind of like a mini quiz, so we would get up to 10 points, but you had to, it wouldn't tell you the answers or what you got wrong or why you got it wrong. So you had to figure out which ones were wrong, which were very, very stressful. And you had up to 4 times to get the best grade, and that just annoyed the crap out of me because I'm a perfectionist. Like, I want the best grade possible. Not only that, like for me, it wasn't about getting good grades because I didn't need this class. Like, it's not like it's going towards anything. I just personally really wanted to do well and really understand the language. So making flashcards for me, and these are all my flashcards for the first semester. There was so much. It was a lot of work. Making flashcards for me was easy. So here's itsu, and it's a chair. So that is spelled in hiragana. This is in romanji. And then in the back, I wrote what it was in English. But she tested us in many different ways. So what helped me was not only reading the flashcards this way, but turning them around and reading them the opposite way. I also made flashcards for the alphabet, the symbols, for every single thing, for all the rules. And yeah, it was a crazy learning experience. I really enjoyed class. So funny, we started off with like 46 people. A lot of people dropped out, and a lot of people actually came to class to tell the teacher they were dropping out and saying like, hey, thank you so much for everything. Like, it was really hard, but I just want to thank you, and like I want to take this class again, but like next semester or something. And I thought that was cool. Like, a lot of people ended up really liking it and enjoying it and wanting to come back, and it was fun. Like, I I don't know about you, I think COVID might have changed things, but I prefer to be in class to learn. I also took a ton of notes in class. The grammar was really hard to comprehend in the beginning because the particles were kind of reversed for us, I think, compared to English. And especially when you start learning about adjectives and how to conjugate them versus like the verbs and how to conjugate those and what particle to use what. Oh my God, those were the worst tests. The teacher would write a sentence and she would leave some parts blank and you would have to guess whether a particle went there or not. So that was really frustrating. But some tips I definitely have is to make flashcards. If you're not a flashcard person, sorry, I don't know how to help you. Take lots of notes. But understanding the alphabet too, like figuring out that everything is enunciated the same, drawing the symbols, practicing drawing the symbols, and then just reading it over and over and over. Is basically, I would keep my flashcards in my pocket at work. I would take a little bit at a time and just like kind of when I'm walking, like go through them, saying it. It was really hard towards the middle of the semester because they took the Romanji out. So like this says konbanwa, which means good evening. And they started taking the Romanji out. Like I could read Romanji like nothing because it looks like English, but just pronounced different. But once they just started doing like the katakana, which I was like, oh God, it takes me just a little longer to read because I have to remember and process in my head like what that symbol is and what it's saying. And then I honestly, it was easier for me sometimes during the test if it was just straight hiragana. I think I keep saying katakana. If it was just straight hiragana, I would just change it to Romanji, and then it was easier for me to read, and then it was easier for me to understand, and then I knew what I was being asked. I don't know why in my head. And then okay, so for this one, this is kuru, so it means to come, and then moving towards the speaker. It's an irregular verb, and then I would write what it would like translate to, like is it kikimas, whatever. I'm like, I think I just said to listen. But anyway, and it's so funny because I literally, this class, really realized that we just scratched the surface. Like, my husband kept asking me, and I thought it was so funny because there's actually 4 classes total, and it only stops at intermediate. And actually, those 4 classes are just to intermediate. They don't go to advanced Japanese. And I was so sad because I was doing so well in class and I was getting A's and all this stuff, but we actually were watching a documentary where there was like a Japanese contestant in this documentary, and he was speaking in Japanese and I didn't understand that thing he said. And I looked at my husband, I'm like, I just scratched the surface. Like, this class was just the beginning, it's elementary Japanese. The book was a little bit hard for me to understand. I didn't really care for this book in particular. And then the workbook, also, I had a little bit of hard time. It's so funny because my teacher was like, not just about us filling it out. She wanted us to fill it out and correct it ourselves. So she really put us to work. But I also realized that, and she told us that if we wanted to understand anime and like carry on a conversation, we actually had to take Japanese too. So I thought I was going to be like a one and done. I thought I was going to take this class and I would like know so much, and I barely know anything. So I'm gonna take Japanese too, and then we'll see from there. I was enticed at first to take all 4 classes, but then I realized that's 2 years. There's no way I'm doing this for 2 years. I'm like, I'll just keep playing on Duolingo and I'll learn as much as I can. Like, I just want to be able to, like, if I have a patient, kind of you know, get what I need out of it. Like when I worked at Starbucks, I was like, if I'm gonna learn another language, I just wanted enough to know like, hi, how are you doing today? What can I get for you? And like, that's it. Like, I just want to be able to order something. So I figured for when we travel, that's kind of all I'm gonna need is like, where's this? How much is this? Where can I find this? Right? So I'm excited to take part 2, and I'm excited to, yeah, like go travel there at the end of the year. So those were my tips and tricks on how to remember them. Oh, and just keep practicing. So in my little notebook, I wrote down notes on everything, and then every time we had a test, I would obviously like study the workbook. I mean, I would study the flashcards, but I would also read my notes and everything that I wrote. And honestly, Romanji was the way for me to go. Like, it just made everything so much easier for me to remember. But obviously, she wanted us to write in hiragana, katakana, whatever. So that's why I had to like make sure I did those. And then kanji, the kanji quizzes were always like such a struggle for me, because especially I don't have good writing to begin with. Like even in English, like my writing, it sucks. So she would always mark me off for like not drawing something correctly. And to me, in my head, I'm like, that is what it is. But to her, I don't think she understood what my writing was. And so I would get docked points, and I would be so upset because I knew in my head, I was like, that is the right symbol. But because I didn't draw it at this angle or this, like, it was so frustrating to me. But that's just because I have bad penmanship to begin with. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where my kanji is so I can show you like how I practice. And then there's some kanji out there that have, here we go. I would just write it over and over and over, or draw it over and over and over. But there are some symbols that have multiple meanings. So I was like, oh, great, lovely. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and good luck to you if you're taking this class. Bye.